For today's video, I will be showing you how I made this oversized lantern using products mostly from the Dollar Tree, with the exception of one thing that came from Walmart. It cost me less than $10 and I was really happy with how it turned out. If you want to see how I made it, continue watching. So the supplies you'll need for this craft include one of those 8x8 signs from the Dollar Tree. That's what the black thing is. I had used this for a different project, so I'm sorry it's not like the original thing, but it's the kind where it's like a little bit thicker. You'll be able to tell later on what it is. And then you need one of the battery operated light bulbs they have, some jumbo craft sticks, and I got those at Walmart for I think less than $4, but I think they have them now at the Dollar Tree as well. And then you also need the rubber head from a plunger at the Dollar Tree, and then the last thing that you need are two of these stretched canvases that are the 8x10. So the first thing I did was I just drilled a hole on the upper inside part of the plunger head, and that's because there is no hole to go all the way through, and we want to be able to have the stringy part of the light bulb go through there. That'll just kind of hold it in place better. So I just took my drill and I drilled a hole and I kind of wiggled it around a little bit. You might have to play with it in order to get it to be the right size, but then just keep trying to get the little cord stringy thing attached to the light bulb. Just keep trying to get it to fit through there, and you want it to be kind of snug as well, because you want to make sure that when you actually assemble the light, that light bulb will stay in place. The next thing you want to do is remove the canvases from the frames. I actually had a really hard time removing the stretched canvas from the frames. I tried using a knife, I tried using a pliers, and I was just really struggling. So totally it doesn't matter how you get the canvas off of there, but just really be careful to make sure that you don't break the frames, because that's the main thing we're going to be working with, is the wood portion of the frames itself. I have an option of what to use the canvas for later, and I will show you that in a little bit. But again, if it gets a little bit beaten up, it's totally not a big deal. As you can see, this is what they look like once the canvas is off of them. If you want to remove all of the little staples, you can, but it's totally not a big deal. And as you can see, there are still some of the little frayed edges from the canvas, but again, not really that big of a deal. So now we're going to take that 8x8 sign I was telling you about, and the shorter edge of the frame is going to fit right inside. And so again, that's why you want to make sure you have an 8x8 sign, and you can see those little pieces in the corner will need to be removed in order for the canvas frame to fit. So I will do that off screen because I actually had kind of difficulty doing that. As you can see, I actually ended up kind of breaking the edges as I was taking those corner pieces out. But that's not a big deal because you can just glue it back together. I will say one thing I wish I had done differently was I wish I had waited to glue that back together until I was gluing in the frame from the canvas, because I used a lot of hot glue to get the corner edges together, and then it raised it up a little bit, so then when I tried to fit the canvas frame in there, it didn't fit very well because of all of the hot glue. So I really would recommend not doing that. So now I flipped that black sign over. You can see it's definitely been used. It looks like Darth Vader's helmet is on there. But we are going to measure for the rubber head of the plunger to go on there. What I like to do to find the center is I use a ruler and I draw a line kitty corner, corner to corner, and then I do that on the other side as well, and that just makes it easier to find where the center point is. And then once I have found the center point, then I turn the plunger the way it's going to be sitting, and I take a pencil and trace around the circular part, so then that way I know how big of a circle to cut, so then that way the plunger, the part of the plunger that sticks up, will fit through the circle no problem. I know it's kind of difficult to see, but you can kind of see where the circle is supposed to be there. So then I took a box cutter, a scissors, lots of different things, and tried to cut out that hole, and it was difficult. Like, this is some good thick quality material that they use for this sign. And yeah, so it took a little bit, but eventually I got a hole cut through the sign. As you can see, that the top part of the plunger fits through it, no problem, and we will set that aside for later. So now I am going to glue in the wood frame from the canvas, and we definitely want it so the staples will be facing inward. As you can see, I'm kind of struggling to get the frame to fit in there nicely, and again, that is because I had hot glued it, and so there is hot glue buildup. I even tried scratching out some of the excess glue, but it was kind of difficult. So I honestly wish that I had just left those edges broken, and then when I went to glue the frame in, then I could have just glued them to the frame and then it would have fit perfectly. But of course, hindsight is always 20/20, so make sure you're learning from my mistakes. But it still worked out okay. It probably wasn't quite as straight as it could have been, but in the end it ends up looking okay. So if you do glue it like I did at the beginning, it's definitely not the end of the world. And now that I have the other one glued parallel to it, now we have both frames in there, so we are ready to move on to the jumbo craft sticks. I apologize because it is not going to be totally in frame, but you can kind of see that I laid the jumbo popsicle stick or craft stick across just to sort of measure how it would look. And then I'm going to do it on the other side as well. Even though that has a top piece, I want it to all be uniform, so I will glue a piece there as well, and then I'm going to be gluing pieces up and down too. So I cut down the pieces to being 8 inches, and then these are for the top portion of the lantern thingy. So yeah, so this is gonna be the top portion, and then I will show you how that looks. So as you can see, I put a little bit of hot glue on each edge of the frame, and then I'm going to glue down the jumbo craft sticks. And this is what's nice, even though when I glued in the frames they weren't perfectly straight, I can use the 8-inch measurement of the craft stick to know how far I should try to stretch the canvas frames to make it so that they are even, because there should be an 8-inch distance between the two, so that kind of helps hold them in place. And then I get started gluing the craft stick to the next side, because again, even though there is a top portion on this side, it wouldn't really look uniform and it wouldn't look really nice compared to the other sides where they have the jumbo craft sticks. So that's why I decided to add them on all 4 sides rather than just the 2 sides that have the gap. And as you can see, I now have all 4 of the craft sticks across the top. I apologize, it's not totally in frame, but you can still see that the craft sticks are there. And then now that I'm done with this, I'm going to move on to gluing the pieces across the middle portions. I measured them out to be about 8 inches, but they ended up not being perfectly 8 inches between each of the spaces, so just kind of cut it down to whatever length you need to in order for it to fit. And then once the pieces were glued together, I used this Rust-Oleum chalkboard paint in black, and that was just because that was the only black spray paint we had. Any black spray paint should work just fine, or if you don't want it to be black, you could do it a different color as well. So this is how the lantern looks once it's been spray painted, much better than before. And I thought it'd be fun to add some canvas to the center portion of where a couple of the craft sticks are. You'll see what I mean in a little bit if you're confused. So I'm going to tip it sideways, and then I'm going to take some of the excess canvas and just measure a piece to where it'll fit on the inside. And then it doesn't have to be perfect, just kind of approximate. So then I take a pencil and I trace approximately where I want to cut it, and then I just cut out the canvas piece and then hot glue it in. So this is how it looks once all 4 sides are glued in. You should have enough extra canvas left over from the stretched canvases that in order to get all 4 sides. Just make sure that you're consistent if you want the cream side showing or the white side, because the front of the canvas is a different color than the back. As far as the light bulb is concerned, there are 3 settings. There's bright, and then dim, and then they have a flashing one too, so I thought that was kind of cool. Now we will take the painted rubber end of the plunger, looks much better now that it's black, and we are going to attach it to the lantern. So I just put a ton of hot glue around the outside. I really don't think you could do too much. So yep, just put a whole bunch of glue around the outside and then stick the lantern right on top, hold it for a few seconds while it adheres, and then you are good to go. So I didn't record the last step, but I pretty much showed you at the beginning anyway. Once you have everything glued in, then you can put the light bulb in the top rubber part of the plunger. So just be careful that it sits in there okay. I didn't want to glue down the light bulb because you need to be able to remove it from that portion if you need to change the batteries or something like that. So yeah. And this is the finished product. I thought that it would look really cute in our son's nursery. We have kind of like a woodlands themed, and I don't know, I just thought it looked kind of outdoorsy and cute, but you can really put it anywhere. You could add ribbon to it if you want, just do whatever to make it your own. I had a lot of fun with this project and it didn't take too long. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. Thanks.